What's going on, everybody, and welcome into the Browns Report. I'm your host, Joey O'Donohue, and I'm hyped up because Cleveland Browns football is basically back. Regular season football this time, and we're going to find out Cleveland's official 53-man roster pretty shortly. But before that, I'm going to give you my projection for who's going to make the final 53-man. We've been analyzing all of Cleveland's preseason games, all the camp, all the offseason. It's time to predict who's going to be on it. But first, make sure you're subbed. Go ahead, smash that sub button because we're going to be giving you Cleveland Browns coverage all season long. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a watch party every week for Cleveland's games, and we'll hang out, chop it up, talk Cleveland Browns football. It's going to be a great time. We love doing it here on the show. So let's get into my 53-man projection. First, the quarterbacks. Well, this is a lot more simple now, isn't it? Kenny Pickett is out of there. He's been traded. So I think, obviously, we're going to have Joe Flacco and then the two rookies, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. Joe will be the starter. We are not sure who will be the official QB2 yet. But Pickett's out of that picture. On the unofficial depth chart, it was Pickett for the longest time. And now Cleveland has shipped him to the Las Vegas Raiders. They get a fifth-round pick back, which is what they gave up for Pickett in the first place. It's basically as if Cleveland just waived Dorian Thompson-Robinson now. They sent a fifth. They got one back. Pickett's gone. Hallelujah. Here we are. Only 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. That's what I'm projecting. That's, frankly, what it's going to be. No more quarterbacks needed in the room, folks. It's a little bit clearer now. And I'm super hyped to see Joe Flacco week 1. Let's talk about that. He has had success in Cleveland before. And Joe's still slinging it. Towards the end of his tenure with the Browns in 2023, he went 4-1 and had 4 straight games over 300 yards. And he's been lighting it up for the Browns in joint practices against the Eagles. He dominated. Also, when we got to see him play the Rams, he lit them up in a short amount of time, 9 of 10. Flacco throwing deep balls. I think he can really still throw. So I'm super hyped to see Flacco out there as the one, and absolutely I'm projecting that to be the case. Let's move to running backs. Jerome Ford is going to be the RB1 to start the season. Dylan Sampson, the young rookie who I think could make an impact for Cleveland and might even be asked to step up and be the RB2 right away because we don't know when we'll get to see Quinshon Judkins. Pierre Strong Jr., who was evaluated for a concussion recently, we hope will be okay and will likely be that RB3 spot. And then this one I'm really hoping for, Amari Marshall. Great preseason. He was making key blocks in the backfield. He was also getting touches, was Cleveland's leading rusher in their first preseason game. I liked what I saw from Marshall. I don't think he could stay on the roster forever, but I hope he could make the initial 53-man just because we probably won't have Judkins signed officially. So this is a hopeful one. It's my first sort of long shot of the list, but I think Marshall has a chance to make it. And then once Judkins' deal is officially done, there will be a battle between Pierre Strong Jr. and Amari Marshall to stay on the roster. One of them is going to have to be waived to make room for Judkins to officially take over the backfield. So, again, waiting on the NFL to finish their investigation of Quinshon Judkins, and they may suspend him or they may agree with the court, the prosecution who dropped criminal charges against Judkins. But until that point, there's room for one more running back, and I'm hoping Marshall can be that guy. Now on to the wide receiver room. All right, we know Jerry Jeudy is a lock. What a season for him last year. Top 6 in receiving yards in all of the NFL. Cedric Tillman also going to be a lock for me. It was great to see him start to break out a little bit towards the back half of last season and start to get more targets, and people were even picking him up in fantasy football. So those two are locks, no doubt about it. I think Jamari Thrash is basically a lock as well. He's been listed as the wide receiver 3 all off season, and he had a pretty good preseason. He was kind of a security blanket for all the quarterbacks that we threw in there trying to get their feet wet. So Thrash proved that he's a good player and can be impactful on third downs when Cleveland needs to pick him up. Isaiah Bond, another one that I'm super excited about. Cleveland seemed to want to ramp him up. They already gave him snaps in preseason when he only had a couple days to learn the playbook. So Bond, even though he didn't play much, Cleveland really likes him. They scouted him so much before the NFL draft. And now we'll get to see the speedsters, blazing speed in action. I'm super excited about it. I'm also really hyped for Gage Larvidan. I think he will make this 53-man roster, and it's because of the work he put in camp and during the preseason. What once was a UDFA has turned into a great story. A guy that's caught a touchdown from Dillon Gabriel in preseason, also scored a touchdown in Shedeur Sanders' debut on an end-around fourth down play. He's versatile. He works hard. He's a little smaller than some other receivers, but as I said, he's got the heart and the talent, and he's utilized in the return game as well. So I'm super excited to see Larvidan get an opportunity. At least that's what I'm projecting will happen, and I'm pretty confident it'll be the case that we'll see Larvidan on the 53-man in that room. Also, going to project that Caden Davis makes the original 53-man roster. Another guy that had a couple touchdowns in preseason, and I know it's a pretty crowded wide receiver room for the moment, but now I think Cleveland has a little more room to play with Pickett off the roster, and they've able to, if they can retain Davis because they're also going to cut DeAndre Carter, who they used in the return game, well, they were using Davis on returns in preseason, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him as well as Larvidan, but at least one of them will make it. I'm going to project both for my original 53-man roster projections. Pretty straightforward that David Njoku will be back. He's an absolute beast. You do not want to try and tackle him if you're a defender. Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie, was also pretty exciting in his preseason debut. Caught a touchdown from Joe Flacco. Hopefully we see that in week 1. And then I think they'll go with Blake Whiteheart, who also is nursing a bit of an injury, but seems like he'll be okay and ready to go if they need him in week 1. They probably won't go past that. They might not even need more than 2 tight ends, but I think Cleveland likes to have a few on the roster, so I'm going to go Whiteheart as the TE3. Moving on to the offensive linemen. Okay, there's 10 right now that Cleveland can actually bring after a flurry of roster cuts on Sunday where they cut 7 offensive linemen. So these are actually the only 10 that are really eligible and not on IR for Cleveland to bring on. We know the 5. DeJuan Jones, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Posick. Hopefully his injury is not serious at all because Cleveland will need him at center. Wyatt Teller, absolute stud, and Jack Conklin will round out the starting offensive line. Then Cornelius Lucas, who is actually in contention to play. There's not necessarily a lock at left tackle. And Lucas, if one of the starters gets hurt, will be able to come in and make an impact. Same with Luke Weipler, who may start week 1 depending on Posick's injury and has had a pretty good camp according to Stefanski. We'll likely see Weipler play a little bit. Zach Zinter, I think, gets kept. Tevin Jenkins, I think, will have to get kept for depth as well. But I really do think that Cleveland should go out and sign another offensive lineman just because of the scarcity at the position, and also health being a factor. Like, it's not necessarily guaranteed that all the starters stay healthy, and the past couple years in a row, a lot of Cleveland's best linemen have been getting hurt, and it's hurt their run game. It's hurt their offensive line and their protection. So I do think they will go out and get another offensive lineman, at least they should. But for now, I've got those 10 making the roster. All right, moving on to defensive tackles, another room to be excited about. Mason Graham, you're definitely making the 53-man. Great preseason so far in just a limited amount of snaps. Malik Collins, also think he will absolutely be a starting DT for the Browns. Shelby Harris will be backing up Graham. And then Aiden Huntington. Wow, what a story it's been for Huntington. He's a beast, an absolute monster. He finally has been officially announced to the 53-man, and it's because of an amazing preseason. 1.5 sacks against the Rams just recently, and he's versatile, explosive, penetrates gaps. We actually saw him line up at fullback and special teams in addition to DT. So get excited about Huntington. And on the other side of things in the defensive line room, let's go to our defensive ends. Myles Garrett. I'm projecting he makes the 53-man. You heard it here first. Hot take. Isaiah McGuire, also pretty obvious to be one of the defensive ends in Cleveland. Alex Wright and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who we saw get a lot of preseason reps, should definitely be on the Browns roster when the time is ready. And then, one that I'm predicting that I haven't seen in other projections is Julian Okwara. I think he had a pretty decent preseason, and he was involved on a lot of big turning point plays. For example, the pick 6 against DTR that KJ Henry came up with, it was because of pressure from Okwara. I think he's gone out and applied a lot of pressure in these preseason games and is earning his way into a defensive line room. You're already seeing Cleveland move on from different pieces in the defensive line, like Briggs, who got shipped to the Jets, and they made a couple cuts today as well. So you know they're deep, and I think it's really strong this season, the Browns' defensive line. Not only do they have the best guy in the league in Myles Garrett, but they've got a lot of great pieces around him. Just like I said, Mason Graham looks like he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Aiden Huntington has earned his way onto the roster. McGuire was really cooking in the preseason too. So it's promising to see. I'm hyped about the defensive line this year for Cleveland, and they always make that a priority. Jim Schwartz dials up pressure, and Cleveland is always going out and getting defensive ends to pair with Myles Garrett. So I'm hyped about it this season. You should be too. Let's move on to the linebacker room. Rookie Carson Schlesinger. Keep your eyes on him all season long, folks. The stud out of UCLA is everywhere on the field. In his limited preseason snaps, it seemed like he was guarding no matter who was route running right next to him. Also had a free blitz straight through the offensive line and absolutely decked Dresser win in the Rams game. Schlesinger is going to be a star in the league, a steal for Cleveland at the top of the second round. Mohamed Diabate also will be on the roster, so will Jerome Baker likely. Devin Bush, one that I think will make the roster, and I'm excited to see in Cleveland. You know, a lot of people are polarizing about Bush, but I think he actually has a lot to offer and has been having a good preseason. His case is still being under review as well by the NFL, but seems like he'll be okay to play, and the Cleveland will keep him. Another sleeper that I'm putting on this list, you see Winston Reed there, who is also on the injury list, but will probably take up a spot on the 53-man in the linebacker room. But I'm going with Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, a guy that had a good preseason for Cleveland as well. This is one that I'm predicting as a long shot because I think Cleveland could use a little more depth in the linebacker room with JOK out for the year. He was the star. Now let's see who else we can workshop to pair with Schlesinger, who I think is going to be a lock in the linebacker room. But again, one of them could be expendable when Cleveland needs to bring in another player due to health reasons or things like that. But it's surprisingly solid overall, honestly. Like, when I saw the news that JOK was out, I was a little bit worried about our middle of the field, about our defense in that regard. But because of what I've seen from Schlesinger so far, those worries are out the window. And we'll have, like I said, Jerome Baker in the mix and a couple other guys in that room that are surprisingly pretty good. So solid overall on the defensive end and linebacker positions. Let's get into the corners, though. Denzel Ward, you know the Warden is back for Cleveland in 2025 through to 2026. We are hyped to see Denzel get back out there, and we really hope he's healthy for the whole season. Cleveland, we need him. He is one of the only shutdown corners left in the National Football League. Greg Newsome will also obviously be on the roster. And then I've got a couple others that I think Cleveland is going to go with to round out that part of the squad. Miles Harden and Dom Jones, who have been doing well in preseason too. Cameron Mitchell, I think also is a corner that definitely makes the roster, at least be a backup to cornerback too. And then I thought about putting Lamarian James on here, but I had to pick between linebacker sleeper and corner sleeper, and I think Cleveland's going to go out and get another corner, which is why I left off James. So not only do I think they will, but I think they should. As much as we love Denzel Ward so much, he's already got an injury and the season hasn't started, and so you can never be too sure. I think they should absolutely go out, get another corner, because that's a part of the field where Cleveland has been beat a lot over the past couple of years. I mean, defenses have just been throwing it over the top, and we cannot have that at all. Martin Emerson Jr. out for the season already as well, so I think they'll sign another corner, and that's why I don't necessarily have James making it, because I think they'll go out and get one of their own. On to the safeties. This one, kind of straightforward for me. Grant Delpit, we know will make it. Ronnie Hickman, DeMonte Kazi, also going to make the roster. And Rayshawn Jenkins, who got a couple reps in preseason as well. I think this one, pretty straightforward for the safety room. Secondary could still probably use a little bit of work, but I love that Delpit will at least be holding it down for the Browns at the moment. So maybe could use a little bit of an improved secondary. But overall, what do we think of the Browns defense this year? Going in to 2025, rate the Browns D. Put it in the comments, scale of 1 to 10. I want to know how good you think Cleveland's defense will be this year, because they could start to get back to the promising defense that we saw in 2023 if things align the way they should. Let me know in the comments. Finally, let's round out the 53-man with 3 more special teamers. Kicker, Andre Schmidt. I'm calling it. Hopkins had too shaky of a preseason. I think Dustin Hopkins gets cut, and Schmidt can be the kicker for now. Cleveland could potentially go out and get themselves another kicker. I don't think it would hurt to have a little competition unless they really like what they've seen in Schmidt. Corey Bojorquez, I mean, shoot, he might be one of our best players. That guy can boot. You don't want to see him out there too often, but man, Bojorquez is one of the best punters in football, in my opinion. He'll absolutely be on the roster. And then Rex Sunahara is pretty much the lock long snapper. There's not really a competition going on there. But my take is bye-bye Dustin Hopkins. Let's move on. He missed 2 point-after touchdowns in the preseason. We don't need that this year. Cleveland is going to be in a few close games because of their defense. And I think we're going to need a kicker that can win us games by 3. So I predict Schmidt makes it. Hopkins, see you later. Do you agree with me? Or do you not? Did I miss someone? Right? Go ahead. Go back. Take a look at all the guys I put on the 53-man. Who do you agree with? Who do you think I left out? Comment your thoughts. I love talking Browns football, so I want to hear from the people of the Browns Report. Thank you so much for tuning in. What a fun episode and what a fun season it's going to be here in Cleveland. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.